Hello, developers. Thank you for joining us for this XR Spotlight Week Q&A. My name is Luke Hopkins, and I'll be your host. Android XR supports both traditional Android development, along with support for Unity and OpenXR. Today, we have experts from both of these frameworks. And with that, I'd like to introduce Amy. Amy has been traveling the world teaching developers how to spatialize their Android XR content. Over to you, Amy.
Hey, I'm Amy. I'm a developer relations engineer. I work on Android XR, primarily on the Jetpack XR SDK. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and answer all your questions.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Spencer Quinn, who's been working on the OpenXR specification with the Cronus group, and he's also contributed to the Android XR vendor extensions for Unity. And Spencer?
Hey everybody, I'm Spence. I'm a development manager for OpenXR and the Unity API surfaces. I'm looking forward to answering questions on those things.
Thank you very much, Spencer. Next, there's no party without Bartley. It's Ryan Bartley, a product manager that's been working on OpenXR and Unity's integration for Android XR. Ryan, over to you.
Hey, Luke, thank you so much. Very excited to be here. I'm Ryan, as Luke said, and I'm a product manager for the developer experience side of Android XR. I'm primarily focused on OpenXR standards, OpenXR within Android XR, and Unity and other engines support. And I'm also working on the two-dimensional or traditional mobile application compatibility story for Android XR. So very excited to answer all of your questions. Looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you very much for being here. And next, we have the wonderful, the amazing Yasmin. She's been working on modifying two-dimensional space panels into three-dimensional space. It makes it really easy for developers that are coming from this Jetpack landscape and modifying their applications into Android XR. And with that, Yasmin?
Thanks so much, Luke. I just feel my head is getting bigger. Every word that you spoke just kept. And so no, thank you for the kind words, and I'm excited to talk to all of you. As Luke said, I'm Yasmin. I am a product manager on Android XR developer experience, helping Android developers bring their app into XR and spatializing with the focus on compose and UI toolkits. So looking forward to answering all your questions.
Thank you very much, panel. So for everyone that's joining us today, we've been publishing blogs, guides, and sample applications on our developer website. So if you want to check out some of that content and ask some questions based on what you see, you can go to developer.android.com/xstar. And with that, we will start with our first question. And this question is a round table for everyone here. What's your favorite experience on working on Android XR? And with that, I'll popcorn it to Amy.
Okay, so I have to say my favorite experience has been just meeting all of the developers and seeing Android apps come to life in 3D space and seeing how people are spatializing their apps. It's been just a great experience. What about you, Spencer?
I mean, there's so many I can think of, but one kind of stands out is experience I like on Android XR. It's got to be a video game related, so I'd say Demio is an amazing game. I love playing that game. And incidentally, one of my favorite experiences while working on Android XR, I think, is the trip we took to go visit Resolution Games. And they're a great team. We had a lot of fun. It was the first visit with external partners, and it's such a good experience. Ryan?
Thanks, Spence. I have a similar, love for this experience, both working on it and on the actual platform itself. I remember from the early days of Android XR when we were running devices across town to Alchemy to check out, where we're at. All of those stories, all of those scrappy early stories were really, really fun. And then, experience on Android XR. I love Asteroid. I can't wait till folks can see it. It really is an incredible experience. Yasmin?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many special moments working on this. I think some of my favorites is really just seeing how quick developers were eager to try on and experiment with our APIs and bringing their apps to XR. Whether that was through OpenXR, like I know we've been at boot camps where developers were able to get their OpenXR app up and running on the headset within like a couple of hours, which is like pretty amazing. And as a product manager, or not even a product manager, but as a team that works on developer experience, that really is some of the things that really speak to us. It's like, yes, we did our job well. Developers are able to build easily on the platform. In addition to that, when we first launched, announced our developer preview, I don't know if it was within hours or the next day, like someone had already used the Material XR overrides and gotten their app spatialized on XR and was showing it off in the emulator, and they had like written a blog post about it. And those are all the things that I think get us really pumped when we really see all the experiences that developers are doing, and especially when it's done so quickly, because like, yes, that's really where we want to make it easy for you to start building right away.
That's a great point, Yasmin. I think it's one of the reasons we want to do this quick Q&A. We want to hear from developers. We want to hear from you early, and we really want to interact with you guys. So thank you all for joining us today. I think with that, we'll go to our next question. This one's for Amy. So what do you think a common misconception developers might have around Android XR?
Yes. So I'm not sure if it's, I guess, like the most common, but I did want to bring it up now just because it's especially relevant right now, but that Android XR is the platform and not the device. And I know that's kind of confusing right now because we're all excited that the Galaxy XR headset just launched and we're all celebrating the launch of that device. But for developers, it's really, really important to remember that this is just the first device, and you're going to see many more devices with varying sizes, capability, and other features and attributes. So just like you want your Android app to look great on different phones and tablets and foldables and different form vectors, you're going to want your XR app to be adaptable as well. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're building your app. I do highly recommend checking out our developer site. I know it's linked below, but we have lots of guides and technical documentation there that'll help you build an app that's going to be adaptable for different devices.
Thank you very much. Next, we have more of a OpenXR related question. So this one will go to Ryan and Spencer. At the foundation of Android XR, we're bringing open standards into the platform. For developers in this new space, what benefits do open standards give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think Yasmin actually was even kind of hinting at this. We are really, really focused on ensuring that it's very easy to bring content to this platform. And, the way that I think we can facilitate that in a multitude of ways is by ensuring that we have excellent support for all the open standards. We plan to, keep our platform on the cutting edge of OpenXR so that anything that we can provide developers in terms of features or core support, we will be able to do that. And it also helps, all of the users of Unity. It makes it so that they are always up to date and are able to, utilize Unity to the fullest extent that possible. And I want to pass it over to Spencer to kind of, talk more about the technical side of stuff.
Yeah, totally. I maybe reiterate some of what you said. Like the portability is a really good reason to do open standards. It's a great community too. The OpenXR community is pretty large. A lot of members, different companies that are helping out to define it. And then because we're using open standards, we can port game engines like Unity on top of the platform and get all those features as well. So yeah, lots of advantages to having open standards.
That's great. Thank you very much, guys. And this next question more goes over to the Jetpack side of things. So I think this will be for Yasmin and Amy. What do Android developers need to know when getting started in Android XR? And we'll go
Oh,
to
we
you,
don't, not
Yasmin.
not all of us jump in at once, right? We move paper, rock, scissors. No. I think we have wonderful guides, as I'll also talk about again. No, but I think one of the things that you need to know is that your app compatible app will just work on XR. And so that's something that's really exciting. And, you know, shout out to the awesome work that Ryan and the team were able to do to make sure that your apps on Android XR just work. And that is something that we were really passionate about, is like, how do we make it really easy for developers to take their existing work and bring it to the platform. And so I think like that's one key thing to remember. And then that we've also made it really easy with Compose, being able to take the existing concepts that you're already familiar with and bring those to XR in the 3D space. And so with our Compose for XR library, we make it really easy for you to be able to create layouts without having to do all of that manual math, by creating a spatial row and columns and placing your spatial panels in there and orbiters. And I think like those are the things that we that I think pretty critical to when you get started, and we have wonderful docs for you to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to chime in and also add that once you're ready to start building your Android XR app, you know, you will want to check out the libraries that make up the Jetpack XR SDK. There's basically 4 core libraries that make up that library. And like Yasmin just mentioned, the Compose for XR library, that's one that's going to be very familiar for you developers that have already been working with Compose. There's also the Scene Core library, which is where you can kind of fine tune 3D content. And that library is going to define, use like an entity system. Then there's also ARCore for XR, which is inspired by our ARCore for mobile library. And then we also have that material design for XR library as well. And you can see, again, like all of that on our developer site.
That's great. So lots of libraries and lots of tools for developers to get started and spatializing their content. So I think this actually leads nicely into the next question, and it will be for Yasmin. But what are some of the core spatial components and design patterns developers should use properly to structure their user interface for an immersive environment? Oh, sorry, I think you're muted, Yasmin. Technical difficulties? Not a problem. If not, we can pass it to Amy. Yeah, no. We're live, guys. We're live. For that, we'll pass it to Amy, if you don't mind, just picking up this question.
Okay, so I think a bunch of those core spatial components that you're going to, just like we were talking about that Compose for XR library. So a big one that you're going to, just like how you have composables in traditional Compose, obviously, you'll see what's called subspace composables. And you want to get familiar with this idea of like subspace, and that's basically kind of like a wrapper that's going to have all of your 3D content there. And that helps you. You also use like subspace modifiers. And basically what you're doing there is you're accounting for the additional attribute of depth that you have in 3D space, obviously. But yeah, so these components are going to look very similar to Compose, like just like how you have rows and columns, you'll have spatial rows and columns. And then for your existing 2D content that you already have in your like existing Android app, those will be placed in the spatial panels, which are kind of like a flat canvas that gets placed into 3D space. And Yasmin, I don't know if you had anything else to add if you're back. Oh, no, we lost her.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Perfect timing.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Of course, I'm like, oh, you asked me a question. Oh no, my mic just stopped working. No, yeah, but I think like thank you so much for Amy for chiming in there and helping and answering so wonderfully. I think another thing to keep in mind is that with the Material XR overrides that we created, we actually have identified components or content that can be spatialized into the spatial panels and orbiters that Amy was sharing. And so, for example, if you are using the Compose material adaptive layouts, the panes become spatial panels, and then some of the navigation controls or components turn into orbiters. So like if you have a navigation rail or a top app bar, those get automatically turned into the proper like spatial container or captured into the proper spatial container in XR. And so we have some great documentation for how you could easily extend and spatialize your app into XR, as well as being able to do all of those things custom as Amy shared.
That's great. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us again. So nice to have you here. So I think this one's round AI. So I think this will be a good one for Amy. So more and more developers are integrating AI into their apps, and we see a big emphasis on Gemini on Android XR. What tools are available to include AI functionality inside their XR app?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So the recommended approach is to use the AI logic with Firebase. With this, you can use basically the Gemini or Vertex AI APIs along with various cloud models to build like an AI solution that's going to work best for your app. You can use AI Studio also to test out your prompts and like see what model works best for you and your use case. We've already seen developers building custom solutions, things like voice navigation, interactive game characters, and like generating AI images. I also highly recommend checking out the upcoming AI Spotlight Week for more information. They'll have tons of content for you there too. And of course, as I always say, our developer site has lots of information there as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. The next one is for Ryan. So I think, why is there such a big focus on OpenXR and Vulkan when developing for Unity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think from Android XR's perspective, and kind of back to my original comment, I think that the easiest way to help frameworks like Unity come to Android XR and experience everything and give developers the capabilities that they're looking for, it's really important for us to meet developers across the spectrum where they are. And I think that is what OpenXR means to us. That's what Vulkan means to us. We're very, very we are focusing and making sure that we not only have a seat at the table for how the working group is evolving, but also making sure that, like I said, we're always supporting the latest stuff, and we're working with Unity to bring that support to the developers that need it, so that we can create the best experiences, as well as enabling people to work less. We want our developers to be able to focus on the things that make their experience special, rather than the technical, platform specific stuff. So yeah, that's a lot of the reason why we really love it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I think Yasmin called on this earlier. I think when we're at boot camps earlier in the year, and we had a lot of developers that were using Unity, because we've adopted these open standards, it's made it so easy for them to port their experiences to this device. So I think that's one of the core reasons, these, again, to go into these open standards for the platform. That's what we're trying to build here. That's why we want open standards. So hopefully all the developers here get to cherish this later on. So next we have, I've spent time adapting my Android application for large screens. How will my application look and perform on Android XR? And with that, Yasmin, I think that's a great one for you.
Yeah, great question. So the awesome part is, if you've already done all the hard work of adopting for large screens, your app will look great in XR in our home space mode. And so then users will be able to resize their app and really adjust and create their own view of how they want to set up their immersive space. And so we really do encourage developers to build adaptive apps, because they're going to work great across all the different form factors that Android has, including Android XR. Now, if you're already using the material for Compose or adaptive layouts, if you use a material for Compose Material XR overrides, you'll be able to just wrap all of your content in that, and then automatically spatialize your your supporting pane content, your list detail pane content, as well as the navigation controls into orbiters and spatial panels and XR. And so we really we really worked hard to try to make it really easy for developers, and all the investment that they've been doing across all of the years on Android and have that show up in XR. And I think that that's one of the ways that we've made it really easy for developers to bring their existing large screen apps. So at the bare minimum, adapt your apps, make sure they work for large screens, and then really add some additional flavor by adding a lot more of those 3D elements, either through our Compose, SceneCore, ARCore, or material libraries.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think next we have a question for Spencer. So Spencer, what should developers watch out for to ensure a consistent and low latency frame rate? So I think this mainly comes into their Unity applications and they're building their apps. Like, what sort of frame rates should they look for, and how can they do that?
Yeah, this is there's a lot of things you can say here. Yeah, if you want to have a good performance, there's lots of tools available. And a lot of features available on the platform as well. I mean, one thing you could do is profile using the Unity profiler. That's super useful. Another great tool you can use for performance is Perfetto. It's an Android-based tool that gives you like very precise information. Lets you see GPU, CPU, memory, stack traces, all sorts of information like that. As far as features go, there's things like application space warp, which is a feature that does some frame interleaving to really speed up your frame rates. We have a feature called dynamic resolution, which will increase and decrease the resolution based on the system resources that are available. So if if currently there's more CPU, GPU available, your frame rates will your resolution will get pushed up, and you'll hit that target frame rate. There's also ways to scale up and down your frame rates dynamically. A lot of other tools that we have and features, and I think there's a performance guide available on our dev website. So that's a good place to go to check out a lot of the other things that I didn't mention.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great call out to the developer website and some of the blogs we've been posting this week. We have some performance guides, and on top of that, we also have some guidelines of what the expectation is for frame rates. So you'll see in our quality guidelines, we kind of call out what the expectation is for frame rates in order just so we're not causing nausea for the users, and we're just making sure that we get a great XR experience in these immersive applications. Okay, great. The next one I think is for Amy. So I would like to release my application for Android XR as an immersive experience. How can I do this? So I think this is going into they just want to release it for Android XR and they don't want to release it for tablet and mobile.
Okay, cool. So you have a few different options here. Basically, I know you said that if it was only an immersive experience, then there is an XR-only feature track that you can use. There's also a flag that you'll need to add to your Android manifest. That'll be it's like a use a spatial feature flag. You can see that on our site. But also, if it's a mobile app or a tablet app that you've added immersive features to, you would use that flag, but you could still release it onto the regular play track. And what that flag will do is it's going to alert users to the fact that your app is either made for XR, optimized for XR, or XR ready, and it'll give you that badge in the Play Store.
That's great. Thank you very much.
I think I have something to add to that one, Luke.
No, please do. Please chime in.
I know we were talking about if you built a specific immersive app. But I also wanted to give a shout out to some of the APIs that we did with Subspace and Compose. So if you already have an existing Compose app and you want to, again, like we said, spatialize your content, you can create a Subspace composable where you can actually wrap your 3D content and can interact with your 2D and 3D content so that you don't actually have to like rewrite all of your logic. You don't have to rewrite all of your UI, but you have that option to have a lot of that intermingling, but then also create really unique experiences that only show up if XR or spatial capabilities are available. So that's actually something we recommend. If you already have your mobile tablet app, adaptive app, and you create a Subspace, you'll be able to add some 3D UI and maintain all of that content up to date so that you don't have to like maintain two apps. So definitely there's a lot of different approaches to do it, but that is one thing that I wanted to call out to make sure developers know that they can adapt their existing app and release it on the Play Store.
Thank you very much. And I think just to chime into that a little bit more, so you're kind of saying that there's one APK they can release, and then depending on what platform it's running on, kind of depends on how the UI looks. So they can have one APK, launch it to the store. It's going to look great on XR. It's going to look great on tablets. It's going to look great on mobile. And I think that's some of the great work that's been done from Compose from the start, right? So yeah, I think that's a great note to developers here. You don't have to just publish to Android XR, and you can use your existing experiences and adapt them very well and have one APK. Great. I think the next one, I think this feels very Unity related, so I think it's for Spencer. But what are the key visual and performance benefits of using composition layers over standard Unity rendering of Unity rendering in UI and world space?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Yeah, so composition layers, actually, they're also supported in the OpenXR runtime. So there's a direct correlation from Unity right down into the compositor. So, what are they? There's different kinds. A composition layer is something that an application can use to basically hand off imagery straight to the compositor, and it bypasses things like having to do sampling on your textures and so on. So there's a performance benefit for that. Things you might use it for: cube map, so for your environment, and another is what's called a quad layer. So if you want to put a rectangular layer up on screen that is very performant, you can put a video on it. Similarly, there's a cylindrical one, so it's kind of like a curved TV display. Same idea though. And then another one, Equirect, which is kind of like a sphere around you, so another environmental one. There's a couple other kinds as well. But one of the key benefits of composition layers, aside from performance, is the fidelity. So you get a much cleaner looking image as well from these composition layers, and they can be used for UI elements. It's actually a very common use case for it. Recommended, I'd say. And yeah, so the nice thing is that a lot of the Unity composition layer features do map straight down into the OpenXR runtime layer, which means that there's hardware support for enhanced performance as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I know with that as well, we have our developer guides, but we also link out to a lot of Unity guides when it comes to something specific to Unity. You can check out Unity's guides. We, as you're saying, we support from a hardware layer these composition layers. So if Unity is supporting it, then it works on Android XR, and there should be no changes to those APIs. And then, I feel like we have a great mix of people today, from Jetpack to OpenXR. So thank you very much for the questions. I think the next one again goes to Spencer. So what is your go-to tool chain for debugging and profiling an OpenXR application?
That's a good question too. I think that maybe answer from the Unity perspective, just because. While some people might want to develop straight against OpenXR, I think most might want to take advantage of a game engine, and Unity has a lot of good tools. I mentioned before there's the profiler, which is very helpful. There's also other tools you can use, like RenderDoc, if you're having issues with your graphics and you want to do deeper analysis. Perfetto, as I mentioned before, also very amazing tool when it comes to doing performance analysis. You can get very deep into the inner workings of how the calls are being made and how much time is being spent on certain things. There's a couple of other things I should mention, like there is a developer option that you can enable, which will create an overlay which comes straight from the compositor. So it's very efficient and has almost no footprint. And so you can see things like GPU and CPU statistics, memory, frame rates, and other things like the current resolution. Like I said, there is a feature for dynamic resolution, so you can actually watch it change as you look around your scene and there's something complex, and then all of a sudden your resolution might drop a little, and you can confirm that. It's kind of nice. And then in the OpenXR package and the OpenXR API, there is a performance metrics API, which has a lot of additional metrics for CPU time, GPU time, and other performance metrics that you might find interesting.
That's great. Thank you very much. I do just want to quickly open it up for Ryan. I know you've done a lot of work with Unity and OpenXR as well. Do you have anything to kind of add to some of those questions?
No, I think Spencer answered what I would have said. I think that we are also, always working to improve the experience, and we would love to hear from folks as they start using this to make sure that we've covered, all of the things that you might need when developing your experiences for Android XR. We are very, very open. We really, really would love to make sure that, that this process is very easy for you.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think next we have another question for Yasmin. And why isn't Compose XR built on top of Compose instead of having almost a new API except for runtime and a few more things? It would be good if an Android app to be able to run in XR.
Yeah, so there's a few questions there, and I think first and foremost, your Android app can run in XR already, so I think that's something to keep in mind. And it's something that when we were developing the API layer and how we thought about what made the most sense, there was definitely a lot of consideration for at what layer do we actually add some of the spatial compose code, or how do we make it easier and integrate? And I think one of the things that we wanted to think about was really giving developers the flexibility to create their own spatial UI while also being able to use the existing tools in the 2D space to maintain their compose UI. And so maybe it would be, if you have direct questions about what specifically would like to improve to ensure that they interplay better, I'd love to hear that. But that was something that we worked diligently to ensure that if you add a spatial panel, it can inherit all of your 2D UI code, whether it's in Views or Compose. But then you still have the capability to create your UI in 2D with a row and column. But then in 3D space, you can use a spatial row and a spatial column. And so we did think by having those be very closely related, but slightly different, it gives developers the flexibility to intersect them as well as customize that. And one of the things that I worked on Subspace, so I'm going to talk about Subspace again, and it's going to be really hard without a graphic. And so, yay, I'm going to set myself up for this. But okay, so one of the really cool things about Subspace is that it essentially can create, there's multiple ways to use this composable, right? You have the application Subspace, which you can, again, render any of your 3D UI and sort of keep it separate from your 2D UI and share some of that logic and some of those elements. But if you want to create something really unique, you have it in there. But then when we have the other, like, I think we still kept the name Subspace for the different composables, but like you could essentially and put another subspace within a subspace, and you can actually have that subspace inherit the parameters of 2D compose. So as an example, let's say that you had a spatial panel, and then you wanted to, you had some UI elements, like maybe in 2D compose, you created a grid, but you wanted to have those, the grid actually be like 3D elements, so that you can actually, in one of those like grid elements, place another subspace to put your 3D code, and it would actually take on the shape and take on the parameters of the 2D UI. So it just allows, like, for a lot of that customization that you can really tweak and intersect them. So I feel like it's one of those concepts that I've spent so much time talking about and like with the engineering team, but I think it's something that's really hard to grasp. So I need to think about how to better articulate that. So apologies, but all of that to say, like, go read our developer documentation on how to use the subspace composable and like how to place that within your existing app. And like, I think you'll be surprised a lot of the customization that you can do while also maintaining some of your UI. And yeah, I feel like I've spent all my time talking now, so apologies. But if you get me talking about subspace and orbiters, you'll get, yeah.
I completely understand. I mean, I could visualize it, but I've seen a lot of this content before. But I think for developers that haven't seen these things, the Android emulator is a great call out here. So I think if you want to start prototyping and looking at some of this amazing work that we've been doing with Subspaces, using the emulator is kind of that great way to see how things are being rendered if you don't have access to some of the hardware today. And speaking of hardware, I think we've got a nice question for Amy. So what makes Android AR glasses different than other XR products for consumers? What's the difference to developers? I think we've announced glasses before, and I think this question is just highlighting that.
Yeah, so I think this kind of goes into what I was saying a bit earlier about different devices having different capabilities. So you may have seen glasses that were like demoed at I/O or something like that. Obviously, that's a very different device than like the Galaxy XR headset. So a big one that you want to keep in mind is something like field of view and just different features. But we'll have more to share later on AR glasses and exactly how you'll be able to build for those. But yeah, but just keep in mind, again, when you're building your application, that you're not building it for a specific device, and that you want it to be flexible and adaptable for multiple devices.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I think we have another compatibility story here, and I think I'll pass it to Ryan. But can the tracking and stability innovations from Android XR be ported to the ARCore compatible mobile devices? So they're just curious how much of that crossover is happening with ARCore and Android XR, and what that might look like for a developer.
Yeah, great question. So I want to make sure that we will have more to talk about with ARCore soon, but our hope is to build, as you've heard throughout this entire talk, that we want to make sure that what you've built on one thing works across any other form factors, and so that is something that we want to bring to Android XR. So yeah, definitely we will probably be mentioning something in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think next we have a nice question for Amy. So is it possible to deploy and run Android applications directly from Android Studio to physical Android XR devices? So it's using the same process to deploy as a smartphone?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. Just like you said, just like you're used to on a smartphone, you can plug in your headset and just enable USB debugging, and yeah, you should be able to run your application right there. And if you don't have hardware yet, as Luke mentioned earlier, you can also use the XR emulator in Android Studio as well, and you can get started right away.
Thank you very much. And I think this is more of a platform related question, so it might be for Yasmin or Amy, but does Android XR support notifications? I think this is just looking at, Android as a platform and how those notifications are being surfaced in the XR landscape.
Yes, we do. Sorry, no. I'm like, that one's, yeah. That's pretty
Yeah, it's great. It's simple. It works. It works as every other device, right? Like it's that simple.
No, we definitely support notifications, and I think like if you are building an Android app and you're using those platform APIs, those will be available on Android XR as well. So yes. Love for notifications. I'd love to hear more. Show me your notifications that you want to see in XR.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I think it's a great segue to saying, like, underneath this whole platform is the baseline Android operating system. So a lot of the APIs you're familiar with, such as notifications, will work straight out of the box on this headset. Next we have a really good question. I like this one because Ryan and Spencer, I think we've internally been talking about this a lot, and Yasmin, then we've all been involved in this type of conversation. So can you have a hybrid of technologies? So can you use Jetpack XR to support home space, but then launch into Unity and OpenXR for full spaces? I love this question. I'm sorry. I think we'll hand that one to Ryan.
Yeah, so we don't have official support for this yet. I will say that we are excited and working on something internally to, use this sort of technology. We are working also with Unity to, make sure that this potential thing could be possible. But we will have more news on that also in the coming months.
Yeah, that's great. And I think to whoever asked this question, if you can ask more inside the chat, and then it really helps our product managers and us understand what your use cases are and how you want to use that. So yeah, feel free to use this chat to give us some feedback and help with that. So next we have another question, and I've just lost. So I think the next one is for Amy. So does Android XR have support for profile, identity, or avatars? So I think people are just looking at like what the API or the surface might be. I know Samsung did a demo with avatars on the stage, and they got to show that in Google Meet. So I think that question kind of goes around there.
Yeah, so I think there's like a few different questions here. So like, yeah, as Luke said, there are avatars that are available. Samsung demoed those. As far as like identity goes and like profiles, so like you would sign into the device like with your Google account, and but if you're talking about identity from like a developer standpoint, the recommended way is generally to use like the credential manager APIs, so that you can use like sign in with Google or passkeys or various ways of signing into accounts that way.
That's great. Thank you.
I just thought I'd mention one quick thing. Is mostly relevant. In Unity, we actually have the face information provided as well, and so you can create avatars in Unity that are very realistic and map to a person's face. So we also have it there too.
That's a great call out. I think if you want that raw information, then we have the face tracking extensions, so you can kind of ask permission from the user to kind of get all that information about the face, and then you can map that and rig that to your own avatars if you like. And I think another question. So I think this one maybe Yasmin or Amy again. It seems very Jetpack related. So do I need a real device to start playing with Android XR?
No. We can jump in both. I'll just say no, and then you give the answer. No, I'm just kidding. No. No, so we had, oh my gosh, how many times do I say no in this answer? You can start playing with the emulator. So within Android Studio, we have the Android XR emulator, where you can see how your existing Android app will look in this device. And then we also have a template where you can get started to start building right away. And then that's where you could actually see where we use compose and like the spatial panels and orbiters So you don't have to have a real device to start playing with Android XR. Although we definitely recommend, getting one to get that experience. But the emulator is a great way to see your app and how it looks in XR.
That's great, thank you. And then I do want to pass it to Amy in case you do have anything to add to that.
No, I think you took the word, took exactly what I was going to say. So we're
but maybe not as many no's. You wouldn't have said as many no's as me, but we're good.
We like to say yes on this team, right? We're all about just adopting. So I think next we have, can we expect more samples for both Jetpack and Unity? So I think this kind of goes out to the wider audience. I don't know whether Ryan, you want to start, Spencer, you want to go, Yasmin?
I'll take. Well, how about I start this and then we'll kick it off. But can you expect? Maybe, I don't want to spoil alert anything, but we have been working on creating more samples and more experiments that you can play around with. We're hoping to be able to share more shortly, but yes, we are working on getting you more samples that you can play with so that you can get into experience all the great things that you can build on the platform.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Yasmin said. We're also definitely working on samples, but I also want to make sure that people, look at the dev site. We have links to samples that are, kind of minimal samples that show certain, features as a part of the Unity plugin. But also we have a set of showcase samples that really dig a lot deeper in making experiences, so you can actually see what this type of stuff looks like in practice. And it's really kind of mixed reality focused, so it really leans into the beautiful pass-through that the device has, and we'll be building and adding to those as we move forward.
I just wanted to add too, we haven't said this yet, but there are actually two packages that we have for our Unity APIs. One is built from Google, and the other is built from Unity. The Google one has samples included with every feature that we provide. The Unity, in a lot of cases, we're mapping features up through subsystems to the standard Unity packages like AR Foundation, XR hands, composition layers, like there's a lot of them. And so because of that, standard Unity samples just work, like the hand visualizer. And so there was no need for special samples. And then one last thing, there's also the Unity templates. There's a lot of good templates that you can really help you get started depending on what you're trying to do. So those are all good resources.
That's a great call out. Thank you very much, Spencer. I think, highlighting on the Unity side of things, we've had a beautiful relationship with them on working on this program. So a lot of their templates, a lot of their samples that are already in the XR landscape will work out of the box. So I think that's normally a good place to go for a lot of this. Unfortunately, we're down to our last question, so hopefully it's not too hard, but let's give it a read and see what our last question for the day is. So, considering all the immersive features already provided by the SDK, what's the rule of thumb for picking between native development and the Unity engine? I think for that one, we'll have maybe the Jetpack side start with Yasmin, and then Ryan, maybe you can go into game engine development a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of spoke on this briefly, but we really want to meet developers where they are. So if you're already developing for Android, start there, right? Because it's going to be very familiar to you. Like, we worked on making the APIs something that you would be very familiar with, the development patterns, so that you can extend it into XR. And I guess to the Unity and like OpenXR side, if you already have an OpenXR app, we made it really easy to port. So I would say it's more of like what you're actually more familiar with and what you're more comfortable with. And that's actually a path that I would start. Now, if you are new to development overall, I think that there are, depending on what type of experiences that you want to build, you may choose one or the other. With Jetpack XR, you are inheriting some of the Android platform capabilities, and that has like a lot of the window management and things sort of that work out of the box. But if you are wanting to create a really bespoke, unique kind of like gaming immersive experience, Unity or OpenXR may be a better bet for you too. So I think it really depends on sort of what is the experience that you want to build and especially what you're most familiar with. But either one of those would be great options.
Luke, you're muted.
Oh, as a host, I'm muted. That's a great start to this. Oh, great end to this, should we say? Maybe I need to stop speaking. But I do just want to open it for just one more minute for Ryan, just to add anything onto game engine development and people that might be looking at that track.
Yeah, I think Yasmin did a great job summing things up. I think what I love about Android XR and kind of XR space is that it gives you the capabilities of being within a person's space, and you can utilize so much of that space to produce the effect that you would love to produce with your experiences. And I think for me, kind of to Yasmin's point, like it really depends on what you're looking for. I think that both are good for the use cases that people are already building across mobile. And I think that whenever you need potentially more control over the full environment, over creating things that really fit into the world of the user, and you're not necessarily so worried about creating kind of a similar user experience that Android is kind of known for, then I think Unity is a great option. And whenever you need less control over the entire person's space, and not to say that Android doesn't have the ability to do a lot of really exciting 3D things, but if you're not needing that kind of complex animation and things over 3D environments, over the user space, then I think the Android XR platform is great to use as well. And again, I think it's really what are you trying to produce, and I think you'll find that it'll become very easy to understand which is useful for which experiences.
That's great. Thank you very much, guys. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. So I just want to thank everyone for their questions in the chat. Feel free to leave more after this. We'll be checking on the live video that we posted after. I'd like to say thank you very much for our panel for their time today, for joining this call. I know we've had a busy release week, but hey, there's a lot of momentum. We're really excited, and we really want to hear from developers. So thank you very much for everyone for the time. Again, as we mentioned at the start, if there's new resources you want to see, check out developer.android.com/XR, and you'll find a lot of the resources there that we've been talking about, as well as the blogs and guides. Thank you very much for joining, and happy building, and we really look forward to seeing these immersive experiences come along. Thank you.